Hi, it's Miles here at Studio Fabricana. I'm inside one of our Fabricana stores in our brand new yarn departments. I'm so excited that Fabricana is carrying yarn because not only am I a sewer and a quilter, I'm also a knitter. So we're going to have a few short videos that are going to show you the basics of knitting. This little video is going to show you how to purl. Purling is kind of knitting's best friend. They work together to create different looks. What we're going to be doing is knitting on the right side rows and purling on the wrong side rows. And what that's going to create is what's called stocking stitch. Now, stocking stitch is probably the most common pattern in knitting, and it makes this nice smooth texture. Now, keep in mind that stocking stitch does tend to curl a little bit, so it's not really suitable for a scarf, but it's suitable for lots of other projects like sweaters. Actually, what we're going to do for the first row is we're going to knit those stitches, and then we're going to purl the stitches on the wrong side row. So I'm just going to get started knitting the first row. Knitting that last stitch. So now our left needle is free. We're going to move the stitches into our left hand and move the empty needle into our right hand, and then we're ready to start purling. So the major difference between knitting and purling is that when we purl, we have our yarn in front of our needle. If I was going to knit this stitch, my needle would be in front of the yarn and I would go in from left to right and front to back. But with purling, it's all kind of the opposite. I have my yarn in front, and I'm going to be going in from right to left on that stitch and kind of back to front. So the needle goes in this way. The yarn's in front of the needle. I go in from right to left and back to front. Then we wrap the yarn counterclockwise around the needle, just like knitting, and then we slide that stitch over, and the stitch ends up being made on the right hand needle. So once you've done your first purl stitch, you're going to do exactly the same procedure. Our right side needle is behind our work with the yarn in front. We're going to put our right hand needle from right to left and front to back into the next stitch, wrap the yarn counterclockwise, pull the stitch over the end of that needle, and then the needle on the left slides out. So now we have two purl stitches on the right hand needle, and we've removed two from the left. We're going to look at the purl stitch from another angle just in case you're having a hard time seeing. So we're starting with the left needle in front of the right needle, and the yarn is in front of our work as well. So we're going to take our right needle, it goes from right to left and kind of back to front into the stitch. We wrap the yarn counterclockwise around the right needle, and then we pull the left needle over the end of the right needle, and we slide that stitch off the left needle. So now we have 3 stitches on the right needle and 3 less stitches on the left. We're going to continue to purl the rest of the stitches remaining on our left needle. Last stitch gets knit, purled, and there we are. So we've just finished one row of knitting and then one row of purling. So now we're working on row 3, and row 3 is going to be another row of knitting, which we're all experts at now. So I'm just going to knit that row, and then I'll catch up to you again when we're at row 4. So we finished doing row 3, we're going to move on to row 4, and because it's an even numbered row, we're going to be purling that row. So you can kind of see the work growing the more rows we do. So again, this row we're going to purl, so our needle goes right to left, back to front, the yarn goes around counterclockwise, we pull the left needle over the end of the right needle, and we slide the left needle out. We're going to continue this for the remainder of row 4, and then we'll see how our work is starting to look. So we're picking up on the last few stitches of row 6. So it's a wrong side row, we're purling. I'm just going to purl those last 5 stitches. Because our work is starting to grow, you'll get an idea of what it looks like when you're knitting on the right side rows and purling on the wrong side rows, because it's very different from just knitting. You can see on the back side, on the wrong side, it's all these little bumps, and those are called purls. And on the right side, this is more of the traditional knitting that you're probably used to looking at, where you can kind of see little rows of V's stacked on top of each other. It's much smoother, and it's a very traditional stitch called the stocking stitch. So thanks for joining us and learning how to purl. So now you're experts on knitting. I know you're quickly going to be experts on purling, and that's going to lead us into the next upcoming videos where we're going to learn how to increase and decrease stitches, as well as use purling and knitting in other combinations to create textures and ribbing. We'll see you then.